Focused? Yeah, it needs to be focused. This is a serious conversation.
Can't ball in a life, man. Go on with it, go on with it.
Yo, is it? Are you kidding?
Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are already subscribed, then thank you and I welcome you back. I have a college roommate storytime video for you guys today. And I think this is gonna be a good one. This needs to be shared. So we're gonna jump right into it. Okay, so many of you guys may already know that I graduated last semester. And this story time is about the time that I walked into a crazy roommate situation. It all started the summer before graduation, so summer 2019. First, there was this portal where students that were not going to use on-campus housing could go to in order to find accommodations as well as roommates. I was one of those students that needed to use the portal in order to find housing and roommates. But it wasn't by choice. I would have preferred on-campus housing, but I couldn't get an apartment on campus because I would have had to have paid for housing for the entire summer. I only needed a place for 4 months. I only had 4 months left before I graduated, and I wasn't gonna pay for somewhere that I wasn't going to be using. I mean, I already feel like college is a financial trap, so I didn't want to give them any more money than I needed to. Plus, neither of my parents have money trees in the backyard that I can go pluck some money off of. Okay, but anyways, closer to the time that school would start, I began apartment hunting. Now, I didn't really have high expectations as far as roommates were concerned because I feel like I've always had bad roommate situations. One year I had a roommate that would stalk me when I was sleeping. Like, she would hover over me and watch me as I slept. I woke up to this numerous times. She would always keep the AC on like 80 to 90 degrees in the apartment. Like, she would turn the AC all the way up when we were sleeping. During the daytime, it didn't matter. I caught her putting things in my food that I had in the fridge. It was just crazy. I have some more roommate situations just like that, and so I did not have high expectations. Okay, but we're not talking about those roommates. We're going to talk about the most recent situation. So when I jumped into this situation, I felt like as long as people respected boundaries, I could hold my own. Now, the key word is boundaries, okay? Because boundaries will come up later on in this story. So I began putting the word out there in the portal that I needed housing and roommates, and several times it seemed like I was going to get both of those things. For example, there was another girl that I found that was in the same situation as me, and we decided we were going to room together, but we needed 2 more persons in order for rent to be affordable. We couldn't find 2 more people, and so that fell through. Another time it was a bad credit situation. Like, there was just always something, you get me? Until I finally found roommates and secured accommodation, so I felt like I was in luck. So it was a 2-bedroom situation where up to 4 persons could share. The roommate that I found, we can call her Sarah. She already lived in Dallas with her family, and like me, she just needed a place to stay for 4 months because she was also graduating the same month that I was going to be graduating. Basically, she was the one that found the place, and we paired up and we began chopping up things together. We also found another roommate. Well, she found another roommate for us, and it was a guy that we can refer to as Rick. So now we have Sarah and Rick. So 2 girls and 1 boy. Now that means that we only had 3 people for our apartment. I was only gonna pay 1/4 of the rent because we were supposed to have 4 people in our apartment. But Sarah quickly reassured me that Rick agreed to pay 2/4 of our rent. So I would do 1/4, she would do 1/4, and he did 2/4 because he was supposed to be rooming alone. Or was he? So I was like, okay, cool. So all was fine and dandy. Then the following day, she texted me saying Rick had a cat. Okay, so here's the thing. If you love having cats as pets, I get it. I respect that. I respect your right to have a cat as a pet. However, I hope that you are a person that also understands that not everyone was raised with a pet or a cat. And so I hope there's no judgment there. I'm not hating on cats. Cats are fine animals, but it was just different for me. So this was probably my first red flag when she announced that Rick had a cat, but I let it slide, and probably was not the best decision. So I messaged Sarah and told her I had never had a pet before, and so I don't really know what pet ownership entails, and so as long as Rick agreed to be a responsible cat owner, we could go ahead and set up some keyword boundaries. So I proceeded to set up a group chat so the three of us could go ahead and get to know each other and discuss things like rent and like utilities and like who would bring what for the main living areas. And I noticed that Sarah and I used up the group chat and Rick never participated. Like, he never communicated with us, and that was another red flag. Now it's moving day. I was really excited because I was ready to just end this stuff that I started 4 years ago. I was just ready to graduate. So my family and I walked up to the door. I slipped the key into the slot and threw open the door, and out flew the cat. And then in hot pursuit, there was who I assumed to be Rick, running after the cat. Now I was definitely shocked. I wasn't expecting a cat to be behind the door ready to run out, but I apologized anyway to him and said, oh my god, I'm so sorry, blah blah, that whole thing. Okay, so I moved in, unpacked all of my stuff, and from day one there were so many alarm bells going off every single day. First things first, I walked into my closet that Shara and I were sharing, and there was a smell that just stained the air. It was so bad. Then I began to notice the cat would be walking on the countertops, the cat would be on the stove top where you cook, the cat would be inside the fridge, the cat would be in the kitchen sink. It just blew my mind. Like, I just didn't understand it. I knew that this was going to be a rough 4 months, but I was just so desperate to finish my degree. I was like, let me just have tunnel vision, the end is in sight, and I'll just try my best to block everything out. So to set the tone, I just immediately cleaned the bathroom, lit my Bath and Body Works 3-wick candles. I sprayed the room down, the closet, everything, you know, just trying to make everything okay for me to live in that apartment. I want to give you guys some specific details of the horrors that I faced. So we're gonna start with the cat. I told you guys earlier the cat would be walking on the countertops, stovetop, all of that good stuff, right? He would literally be inside the fridge sometimes, like eating some of the foods that were in there. Every time I would walk around, the cat would be like on my heels. I don't know if he was like just attracted to my scent or something, but he was always around me. As for the entire semester, I was held hostage in the tiny half side of the room that I shared, because guess why? The cat would never leave me alone. Now, before you guys come for me about not appreciating this attention, remember, I'm not accustomed to having cats. And I did explain this to both of my roommates, and I honestly thought that Rick was gonna keep his word about being a responsible pet owner. There were times in the beginning, before I started shutting my door every time I would leave, where I'd get home and the cat was inside of my drawer, or the cat was laying on my bed. And it was ridiculous. Like, Rick just wouldn't do anything about his pet. I even told Rick about how the cat would kind of like was always trying to get into my bedroom, and the cat was always like shaking my door and like putting its paws under my door. And he said, oh man, no, cat. And that was it. Like, he didn't do anything about it. The cat would literally be there in the middle of the night, like, I was gonna say banging my door, but it can't really bang the door. I don't know what the cat was using. I don't know if it was his head, but he was using something to kind of just like keep hitting the door over and over again. Rick and Sarah would cook sometimes, and the cat would be on the stove top licking the food in the pot. The cat would be there moving the forks and stuff around. It was just ridiculous. There were times where I would wake up and all of the food in the fridge was like on the floor all over the kitchen. And clearly the cat somehow got into the fridge and started throwing things everywhere. There are times where I would find cat hair in my food. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse. Next, we had a bit of a trash issue. Now when it comes to dishes, Rick and Sarah would leave their dishes in the sink for months at a time. Like, well, to be honest with you, they would only wash the dishes when I drew attention to it, which was like after a few months. Like, I would just be watching it every day and just letting it ride. I'm like, you know what? I'll be out of here soon. It's okay. It's fine. The apartment would smell so badly. It got to the point where we had a fly infestation. We had insects. We had flies everywhere. Inside the fridge, you would open our fridge and you'd see dead flies inside the fridge. You would see flies circulating over the kitchen sink because the dishes were piled high. They got moldy. It was horrendous. They had a crock pot in I don't know if it was Sarah's or Rick's, but one of them had a crock pot on the countertop towards the back of the kitchen. And they cooked one day, and instead of washing it, they left the dirty crock pot right there. And then ants came. We had bugs in there. The flies, were all over. You would walk into my apartment and first thing would hit you is the stench of my entire apartment. The second thing that would hit you are like flies swarming your head. Either Rick or Sarah decided to call pest control for some reason, as if they didn't know why we had such a huge insect problem. And pest control came, and you know what was so embarrassing? Pest control came when I was there by myself, so I had to let them in to my apartment that looked the way it did and it smelled the way it did with the flies swarming. And they came in there and they really said, oh, look at your dishes, look at your garbage, that's why you have the insects here, clean it up and you'll be fine, and walked out. That was so humiliating, but that was a problem. Like, they just didn't get it. We had a trash can in the dining room area, and they never used the trash can for some reason. They used the floor as a dump. They would throw their garbage on the floor, bags and bags and bags and empty cans, empty plates, forks, knives, anything. Personal trash would just pile up on the floor inside the dining room area. And you know what happened? We had more flies and more bugs. So that was another thing. It grew, it definitely got out of hand. In my personal space, I definitely experienced some problems with Sarah, you know, in our personal living situation. The bathroom was definitely an issue. The toilet seat, for lack of a better term, she would leave like doo-doo in the toilet. The toilet seat would have feces on it. There would be pee on the toilet seat. Anything that you could possibly think of that's really, really, really bad or like gross would be found on the toilet seat, on the countertops. I don't know what she did in the bathroom when she'd use that bathroom, guys, but she certainly did something. She did some things that she wasn't supposed to do. You know, instead of using my very own bathroom that I had, I would walk to the leasing office every single time I had to use the restroom. As far as showering, there were some times where I would just shower on campus. You know, I worked on campus in our locker room area. I would just, I don't know, I just tried to figure out ways to kind of just deal with my situation and make the best of it until the time came for me to say deuces. She had her dirty clothes basket inside of our closet. That's another thing. That's also a no-no. Dirty clothes inside of a closet that we shared, you know, with our clean clothes in there. Just like the dining area situation where they didn't use a trash can that was there. She didn't use her laundry basket. Her dirty clothes were all over the floor in our closet. She'd leave her dirty underwear on the floor. You know, there was definitely a hygiene issue, and I inserted clips, you know, dealing with the cat and all of the issues in the main area. The issues that I was experiencing in my own bedroom, I can't really share with you guys because it would be so bad, like super, super gross, and nothing that I want you guys to have to deal with, you know? So let your imaginations run wild, because anything you could possibly come up with, you're probably right. My situation got so bad that I would start leaving my apartment every single weekend. I would travel 5 hours back home every single weekend to get home, so I didn't have to deal with this. You know, when during the school week, I would make sure I picked up longer and later shifts on campus so I wouldn't have to be home too much. I would only study in the library on campus versus studying at home. I tried my best to make sure to stay away from my apartment as long as I possibly could. And you know, in the beginning of all of this, like, I would talk to Sarah, and Sarah would tell me about how she had issues with her previous roommate, and they used to get into arguments. The roommate would accuse her of doing certain things, which I later realized, like, I kind of had the same issues with her. So, you know, in the beginning I was like, oh, you know, oh man, I kind of feel bad for you, like maybe the roommate was wrong. But no, I was wrong in thinking that the roommate was wrong. So yeah, I was just in a very unfortunate situation, you get me? And I was just very happy to say goodbye to Rick and Sarah and the cat. Okay guys, so I was editing this video because I wanted to upload it today actually, and I noticed that there's one thing that I did not include in this storytime video that I want to make sure to tell you guys. I need to make sure I include this. It's just something that I want you guys to take away from this story that I told you, just some words of advice. The first takeaway is that I feel like we have to remember that the people that we share spaces with were raised differently. We don't all have the same upbringings, so we have to make sure that we're cognizant of that and respect that. The second thing is that taking care of a pet comes with a certain level of responsibility. Like, I knew that I was jumping into the unknown, but nothing could have prepared me for the experience that I had. I'm aware that the cat was just doing what cats do. My expectations were just that the owner would take care of his pet, as I feel that he should. The purpose of this story, though, is not to embarrass anyone. The purpose is really to just help someone that may be thinking of rooming with people that they don't know. And I learned the lesson that I needed to. So now we're gonna finish the rest of the video that I recorded the first time. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this horror roommate story, and don't forget to subscribe and like and comment, and I'll see you guys in my next video.
Can't ball in a life, man.